Chair recognizes Mr. Hunt of Sandwich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and through you to my colleagues. This issue that we have across the nation and in this Commonwealth related to addiction, and that would include alcoholism, is something that we've been under the ravages of, and it's been getting worse since the mid-90s and the introduction of some pain medications and a change in the way that we've been dealing with pain medications since then as far as prescribing goes. It's something that affects all of our areas. It's something that affects people in this chamber directly in their own families. There is no district that we represent that is free from the problems of substance abuse. I want to point out two things that are in this consolidated amendment that I wholeheartedly support, and as I do the entire amendment. One thing is, 3 weeks ago, the governor declared a public health emergency around this issue. It was the right thing to do. He tapped into the Interagency Council on Substance Abuse and Prevention, which is a governor's ad hoc committee, to lead the way over a 60-day period to come up with first steps. The Amendment 51 that has been put into this consolidated amendment codifies the Interagency Council on Substance Abuse and Prevention so that it will be a permanent standing commission of the Commonwealth. That is a necessary thing, and it was very important that we had that in this budget. So now it will be still up to the governor to name the secretariats who put most of those people on that board and some people directly on that interagency council, but I think that we can do a lot of good work over the next several years to try and get our arms around this problem, which leads me to the other section that I have called in a separate bill the Assist Act, and that is to lay a path forward for how we, in the longer term, are going to be handling this issue of substance addiction, substance abuse and addiction, especially in the court system relative to nonviolent offenders, but expanded to as well anyone who has interdictions with the court system, whether they be nonviolent or not. We need to address those needs. The diversion programs that we have available to us today in the Commonwealth, the drug courts, are working. In this budget, we're including funding for 5 more drug courts. That is a step forward. The court administrator believes that we need to have about 20 more than what we will have after adding these 5. I believe that's true. In the United States, the opportunity to be in a diversion program through a drug court in Massachusetts, we have the fewest opportunities for drug court diversion in the entire United States. So we're going to change that program. We're going to add to it, and not only that, the court administrator is committed to making sure that these drug courts run under standards that will be applied across the board and that are derived not only from the best drug courts that we have in the Commonwealth, but across the country. The Assist Act piece of this budget will put a commission together that's going to look at those interdictions in the court system of people who are under the influence of drugs. And when I say drugs, I also mean alcohol. We need to find out how many people could be served with diversion programs to go into treatment rather than going into incarceration. It's a key point. The people need help. They don't break into houses. They don't break into cars. They don't even rob banks because they have a good time doing those things. It is because they are doing those things because they're trying to support a habit. The only way we're going to make significant progress on this issue is if we look at the demand side of the equation. That means treating the people who are dependent on these drugs, getting them into long-term recovery, also going back and looking at the education and prevention programs that we have, and yes, dealing with kids as young as 10 or 11 years old, and working to identify that 10% of our population that has a propensity for being addicts. We need to identify the people and get help early. We need to identify the people who need help outside of the court system. And to do that, we have to have a good understanding of what that population is, what the treatment should be, what standards we should have for treatment, how long treatment should be. The 28-day programs, by the way, were a creation of an insurance company, not by somebody who is in the business of treating addicts. It was an arbitrary number. 28 days doesn't solve a problem. 6 months, 9 months, a year in treatment. These drug courts are 18-month programs. That's the type of thing that we need. And if we can standardize on the types of treatment that we have, then I think we can have a reasonable conversation with the insurance companies to deal with the payment of those treatments. So I rise in favor of this consolidated amendment, and I hope that we have a unanimous vote on it. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.